ultra-fast recovery speed, excellent discrimination and unmasking ability, multi-frequency, wireless freedom with no latency, high performance and unmatched depth, brings haunted out sites back to life. Cruise through treasures on land or underwater. Advanced Beach Mode offers very stable operation. Waterproof up to 5 meters. Vibration upon detection of target. Lightweight design. Enjoy detecting for extended hours without fatigue. Stay up to date with online firmware updates and get the most out of your detector. Macro Cruiser Series, all-terrain multi-purpose detector offering the best performance and depth at the best price.
I'm Dave D, and you're watching XP Team USA.
Oh, sorry. I was watching a big detecting show. We'll get there shortly. Good evening, everybody. It's Thursday, it's 8 p.m, and it's the big detecting show with myself. And welcome back to my compadre, who I missed very much last week, Mr. Adrian Gaylor. How are you, Squire?
I'm fine, thanks, Dave. Yeah, nice to be back on and catch up with you and listen to what's going on in the world of detecting now.
Well, we hope all is dandy and smooth in the Gaylor household and beyond at the moment.
Yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? A death in the family. Bless him, my dad passed away, so quite sad, but he's in a better place now. So,
well, we were all thinking about you anyway last week, young man. So,
thanks, mate.
There you go. Some of that.
Yeah.
Well, we've had a great week. Well, I've just had to take some headache tablets because I'm banging headache from looking at the square screen constantly for about the past 5 days. Basically, with the help of that young Mr. Well, I say with the help of, I've been no help at all. That young Mr. Holden of the Detector Network, we've completely rebuilt. I said we again. He's completely rebuilt the Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine website, and we're going to see that shortly for to do with the news. But you'll see we've got a link on there now, thebigdetectingshow.com. And you can actually watch. That's what I was doing when we come on. Then I was watching the show live to see if it worked. So it's been a busy old week, and we hoped to make a massive announcement tonight, but sadly we're unable to at this moment in time, and it will be therefore in the coming days. So without further ado, so we can get on to our guest, Mr. Keith Westcott of the Association of Detectorists, we'll briefly look at this week's news, Mr. Gaylor and Mr. Higgins. Yeah, there we go. So, look, I'm already on the wrong page. There you go. That's the Big Detecting Show live on the look. You can watch it live. There we are. Anyway, I'm lost now. I don't know what I'm doing. That's normal, by the way. But anyway, as you can see, lovely new website, absolutely stunning. We've got the news feed in there straight from the Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine, so you can see all the latest news, because obviously we share news reports from all over the world constantly throughout the day, and that will all appear there. We've got a slider with the people we'd like to promote, and we've even got popular and recent and subscribe to our newsletter, which we're going to be introducing, and also a player for the Big Detecting Show in podcast form.
Great in the car. Great in the car. When you're driving to work, lovely to listen to in the car.
When you're driving to a metal detecting rally.
Yeah. Well,
absolutely.
When, yes.
When. So this is your weekly news roundup. And don't forget, next week here, we will not be airing next Thursday night. In fact, we'll be airing next Friday, Saturday and Sunday night for the live virtual detectable nighttime show. So for those of you who don't know, get along onto the Detectable website or Metal Detectives or Diggers Dips, or I'll be posting again, updating the post for next week, and all the information will be there on how to participate in virtual Detectable starting next week. As you can see, multiple sponsors for the event with multiple prizes. We even make a little appearance on there, which is very nice. So greatly looking forward to that next week. Next in the big news, tomorrow night, Time Team have a big announcement from the series producer, Tim Taylor, and that will be appearing on their YouTube channel, the Time Team Official, tomorrow night at 6 p.m, and we'll hopefully be covering that too. Detector Network have announced a new director of events. Very lovely looking gentleman there. His hair's a bit bolder than that, isn't it, in reality? Mr. Mark Betcher, congratulations, that man, and well done, Scott. Fine-looking team, I must say. And they're going to be looking at events through, obviously, Detector Network and beyond. A nice little one this week, Adrian. The Portable Antiquities Scheme have released their first podcast. Obviously, being in lockdown and having to work from home, Ben Westwood, Finance Liaison of Durham, and Lucy Shipley of Devon have put together the broadcast, and you can listen to that if you go to this page on the Archaeology and Metal Detecting magazine website. Next up, Tales of Trash and Treasure on the never-ending quest of Kent Metal Detecting. There's a lot of preamble, and it goes on to tell you about the Bredgar Hoard and other stuff. And again, where it says continue reading, just click where it lightens up and you'll be able to go straight to that news source. Metal Detectorist on Earth. I thought this was stunning, Adrian. I've spent a lot of time in Pennycuick at Roslin Chapel, and I stayed in the building next door, so very, very know the area reasonably well. Basically, the Scottish and metal detector is Craig Johnston. He's been working out our woods in Pennycuick, where probably an escape route for a 1666 battle. He found a lot of musket balls, and in the end, he found this lovely decorative knife and scabbard, which has been dated between 1191 and 1273. Stunning. That's one of them dream finds.
That's lovely, that is,
isn't it? An article has appeared many, many times in different guises about the mysterious bronze Roman dodecahedrons, and that goes into a bit of spiel about them on that particular article. Now, this one again, Adrian, look at that. A 900-year-old broadsword found in excavations in Sweden. 900 years old, 118 centimetres, made of iron and steel. And it was found in spectacular condition, excavating at industrial park at Hecklooster, where ancient skeletons and remains of a brown bear have been previously found. Now, look at this one. You tell us that one. You know better than me.
Yep. Discovered in England this week. Not this week, the other month. Possibly the largest hoard of Celtic gold staters. 1,300, I think, is the amount that's been counted. Found by a guy. It's actually in this month's treasure hunting. Oh, look at that! This month's treasure hunting magazine. All about how it was found. A brief story, because obviously it's still quite recent. But yeah, found by a guy who was out detecting with his knocks, and I think it was about 2 foot down. And he initially saw them on the surface whilst going for a walk, and it was on his permission, and he literally saw them, picked them up off the surface, then went over there with his detector and carried on digging and contacted the farmer. The farmer wasn't that shocked, to be honest. He was, oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. And then there's the landowner who doesn't live, he rents it out to the farmer. He was really pleased that it had been declared, because obviously something like this is very significant.
Absolutely.
And, you know, he's, sorry, you can see it all there. I mean, they're a bit grubby and dirty, but they don't actually look like they've been used. They're hardly worn. But he carried them off he had carrier bags full of them. So there's going to be more of a follow-up on that. But yeah, that's 1,300 coins. That's a lot.
So on this part of the article, if you just want to click on Treasure Hunting Magazine, shouldn't have done that, or onto the picture itself, it'll take you directly there, and you can obviously subscribe to the magazine if you've not done so already to learn all about that. The Galloway hoard has gone up to display in Kirkcudbright after the National Museum of Scotland show. So it's been obviously cancelled due to coronavirus, but it's up and running now. I'm sure I had another one below that, and it's not appeared. So we will end that, and we'll stop sharing, and we will say good evening. Where am I there? And we'll say good evening to tonight's guest, Mr. Keith Westcott. Good evening, Keith.
Hello there. How are you both?
Not well, but not well at all. Not bad at all. How's yourself?
Yep, pretty good, thanks. Pretty good.
Fantastic. Now, for those of you who don't know, Keith, we've been asked repeatedly over the past few months if we would be able to get Keith on the show so people can learn all about everything to do with the Association of Detectorists. Now, he's here tonight, and behind the scenes, he's more than happy to answer most questions, more or less any question. As long as we don't be asking his waist size, I'm sure he'll say more or less anything. So, Keith, can you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Yeah, so I've been a detectorist since the early 90s. In fact, I first started off as a wreck diver, and it was diving on wrecks down on the south coast and up in Scotland and across in the North Sea that got my interest in sort of researching, because, you know, if you're down in a wreck and you know, sometimes you can be in there and it's pretty damn dark and you see a bit of a glow out there, and you know that's where the torpedo comes through, and that's a way out. So it was always good to do a bit of research on your diving. But living in the middle of England, it's such a long way to travel. I decided to look for something a little bit closer to home, which included research and history, and that's how I got involved with metal detecting initially.
Fantastic. And obviously, I mean, we've spoke off air, got to know you a little bit better, learnt all about different things, and obviously things that we'll come on to a little bit later. But you've made a lot of finds, obviously, in your metal detecting career, but standout-wise, what is the significant one?
Yes, well, when it comes to metal detecting finds, back in the 90s, I decided that I was going to speak to Lord Sainseal of Broughton Castle and see if I can go detecting around there. And he said, we've had people in the past. I don't think there's anything there, but you're welcome to come and have a look. So I said, well, actually, I'm really interested in sort of research and understanding more about the castle. It was involved in the Civil War. Straight after the Battle of Edge Hill, they came to siege this castle. And so going through the archives, bearing in mind that this was before the internet, so, like many of us would sit down the library and do our research, I found that there was a second crossing across the moat, which had been knocked down about 300 years ago. So I thought, wow, I need to look at the trackways going in and out of there and sort of understand what was going on. So that's where I went, and I ended up similar in some ways to the hoard that you've just been talking about, apart from these 16 Civil War coins, not 1,000 staters. But I got a signal, and I can't remember the first one. It could have been James I, I think, and I ended up getting a few signals in the topsoil, and then I started to go down a bit deeper because there was more and more coins, signals coming from it, and I thought, even back in those days, that I was not comfortable about carrying on digging there. I could see that there was, what I thought was a hoard. So I went back to the owner and said, look, there's something really interesting here. I think we better get the archaeologists out. And we got in touch with the Ashmolean, and they asked me what it is I was trying to achieve. And I said, well, I'm trying to see if this was a buried hoard, if there was any point where they were buried in something. And I said, and they said, well, how would you do that? I said, well, I'd go down, take it down in layers. And they said, well, actually, we're quite happy for you to carry on and do it. So that's what I did. I ended up excavating down, and right down, which must have been about 2.5 foot down, there was a sort of a dark indentation where I think these coins had been purposely buried, probably in cloth or something which had rotted away. But the really incredible thing about it is from 2.5 foot down, these coins made their way up to the surface. Wow. And I always said, I'm fascinated by the archaeology side of things, and there's this term called biotubation, and it means the actual turbulence almost of topsoils and such from insects and worms and whatever, which bring things to the surface, and that's what happened over a period of 350 years or so. These coins had actually made their way up to the surface.
Fascinating. Now, you also mentioned to me earlier in the day, now I don't know if you do have it at hand, but you mentioned to me about a medieval vanity mirror.
Oh, yeah, do you know, I got really concerned about this earlier because I couldn't find it.
And
there was a couple of other things that I was thinking, and I thought, bloody hell, what the hell have I done with these? They're not in where they should be. And it just, I remembered in the end that I've been trying to give them away to the local museum, and they keep ringing me and asking me to take it back again because they don't want it. So I've got a really incredible rosette military Roman first century brooch with a pin on the lot, cracking find. And no, they don't want them. And so that's where they are. They're sat down in Banbury Museum at the moment, so I can't show you. But what I thought I would do is I'd get it up on my iPad. So if you can, oh God, it's not going to be easy to see. But you can see this type of
that's
a medieval compact mirror.
Yeah.
Oh, was it good? Well, when I found that, it's only about the size of a £2 coin. And I could never get my head around this. It's so tiny, and sort of a polished lead inside. Not that we've ever opened the one I found actually, so I sort of carried on with my research on this, and then I ended up finding that actually these were also used as pilgrim compact mirrors. And evidently what they would do, they would head off down to Canterbury or whatever, and the first thing they wanted to do to try and get close to God is to go to the relics. That was the most sort of physical thing, tangible thing they could see as a link to the past. And what they would do, they'd get hold of this compact and they would open it up and get the image in that compact and close it and capture it. And then they'd wander all the way back, 50 miles back home again. And when they got back to their house, they would open it and let the image, let the spirit almost of it give good luck to the house.
I see, yeah. Again, fascinating.
And it's these are the things that I've always loved. I do lots of talks to history societies and things, and I find that the things which really go down through interest is things like foot patterns, or when I talk about jettons and the link to the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and it's these sort of stories behind these incredible things that we find that really people seem very interested in. But what I will mention about the hoard that I found, it happened to be the very last case in common law treasure trove. So if you think that's 1,000-year-old law, common law, and the very last case of that was me stood up in Crown Court in the dock in front of a jury and the coroner, and they deemed it to be treasure trove.
Wow.
But a year later, the British Numismatic Society said, well, hold on a minute, there's 3 coins there, which were ducatoons and patagons, Spanish coins minted in the Netherlands, and they really shouldn't have been in the country at that point of the siege, because they believe that Queen Henrietta Maria, when she was going off to sell off the crown jewels on the continent, she came back with ducatoons and patagons. And when you follow hoards which have got these coins in, they followed the pattern or the trek that they made from Bridlington, York, Newark, Stratford-upon-Avon, down by me where they stopped the night. And that was the first time she'd seen Charles I for months and months. So again, it's not very often that you find a hoard and then you find that you think the owner of some of those coins, and it was the Queen of England.
Wow.
Well, I don't know about you, Adrian, but I could sit and listen to these tales all night.
Yes.
But fortunately or unfortunately, we're going to have to crack on shortly after you've obviously said what you've got to say now.
Yeah. What shoe size are you, Keith? No. What got you into detecting? Was it something your father had done or friends? What got you into the hobby?
Yeah, actually, when I was about 9, I think I was. I'm 57 now, so a long time ago. A couple of my mates were Americans, and their dad worked at the base on the F-111s. And he had a metal detector, military. And so I went out with him a couple of times. And funny enough, the site that we went on there, I still go to now, all of these years later. But as I mentioned before, it was the diving on shipwrecks which really did it for me. And I dived on this site of the HMS Ramillies, which went down in 1760. and I found some musket and pistol shot down there under a rock. And the night before, I'd found out about the fact that the captain of the ship, who made a massive mistake, he missed Plymouth Sound and ended up in Hope Cove, was shot with a pistol for making that mistake. And so to actually find those a pistol and musket shot and think, oh, that could have come out the same barrel that they picked this to kill this chap, and that was really what got me into it. And 850 died on that wreck. So, yeah.
Wow. Do you use any underwater detectors at all?
No. It was early 90s, and to be honest, it was such an exciting time. We were doing a lot of deep dives compared to what they say nowadays for a sports diver, and so a lot of it was in pitch black conditions and very cold. Bad currents and all sorts, and it was great. I wouldn't fancy it now, to be honest. But
so, do you get out detecting much now, often, or?
Well, I like to try to, but to be honest, the last few years I've been working constant on trying to set up the institute, and there's certain work that I'm doing on the Villa site. And which is another story in itself. So if you get time tonight to ask me, I can tell you a little bit about that as well. But but we do. What I've been doing there is plotting the coin scatter in the plough soil on the magnetometry surveys, so you can actually get date and evidence with geophysics. And what it shows there is, even though it's in the plough soil, it's actually still on top of the archaeology. It's not moved. It's not halfway down the field or anything. It's still there. In fact, with the plot alone of the coins, you could actually tell it is a courtyard villa without even having to do geophysics on there. So.
Wow, yeah. What was that? Magna. What was that?
The magnetometry. So with the back to our time team days, where we've all been watching that, and you see the geophysics, and they have resistivity and magnetometry and ground penetrating radar. Well, the one we were using, because it worked very well, was magnetometry, and that, in fact, I don't know whether you've got that image you can put up at the moment. That was one of the...
yeah, we can pop that up straight away.
And while you're doing that, let me just tell you a bit about it then. I'd done a lot of diving and then metal detecting, and I then started to race motocross. So that was my hobby for a while. And then when I got back into metal detecting, I'd got this theory that there was a sarcophagus burial in this field. And the archaeologists which were involved in it in the year I was born, 1963, thought it was in context to a Roman settlement, because it was quite close to a Roman road. But to me, it was on a north-facing slope, away from the road. So if the Romans, which used to like to show off their tombs on the roads into settlements and towns, it didn't make sense. And I was fairly sure in my own mind that there was actually a high status villa close to that sarcophagus site. So I decided one day, after weeks of thinking about it, to go looking, and not with a metal detector, but actually just walking out, looking at the topography, if there's anything where it's man-made or being changed by man. We all look at features, don't we, in the fields, and we can tell that it doesn't look natural. And southeast facing water availabilities through springs and such. But anyway, I thought in 3 or 4 hours I might get a few clues, but in 20 minutes I'd found this site.
And that's the one we're looking at, Keith.
Yeah. Can you see that at the moment? Right. So if you see that you've got the red there, which is the courtyard villa, and I could see that this field was terraced down to a stream, and it got like a plinth, a huge platform, and that's the green that you can see, those double green stripes on there, shows the plinth that it's on. And just down below it, you've got a yellow aisled hall. Well, to give you an idea, that aisled hall alone is the size of a medieval church.
Wow.
And to give you an idea of the scale of that, at the top of this image, you'll see a yellow arrow, and that gives you the dimensions of Buckingham Palace.
Wow.
So it's up there with the largest villas ever discovered, which is your Chedworths and Bignors and such. But what makes this really interesting, and this is what brings in my love of archaeology and metal detecting, is that most of the large villas that you see out there, most of what you see is reconstructed by the Victorians, and it was actually Victorian methods that they were using, and for archaeology. And of course, now this site has got the chance of the modern methods of today to look at one of these sites in detail. The only trouble, it's going to cost about $2.5 million to do, which is a bit of a bummer. But apart from that, so that obviously, I'm really proud to think that as a detectorist, I used my head. I had my ideas of theories and such, and I went out there, and that's what I ended up finding.
Right.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to move us on now, away from this, and onto the AOD, the Association of Detectorists, because obviously we're under time constraints because we won't be here all night. And obviously I want to get into it a little bit in depth because the majority of the audience tonight are watching specifically to learn more about the Association of Detectorists because they've heard about it in a good nature and in a bad nature. And tonight's show is to give you the opportunity to discuss it a little bit more in depth and to speak to people directly and to tell them the actual aims and objectives of the Association of Detectorists. So, again, can you introduce the Association of Detectorists, please?
Yes, well, the Association of Detectorists, I set up as a community interest company, so a not-for-profit body. The reason being is to get to an institute, you've got to be able to show to Companies House that you've gone through all of these different stages to then be given the position of institute. So we've been working with Companies House for a couple of years now, and it's only now that that we're just starting to open up to membership with the association. And the reason for that is that the institute, which is what it's all been set up for, it's still going to take us a good 9 months or so before we're in a position to launch that. So we're very involved with the Historic England funding, working through a feasibility study. And that means that really all we're doing is that we're asking the questions out there, whether this is something which is going to work or not. And so quite often people say to me, well, what's your main aims and objectives of the institute? And we can't say that because we're still trying to work that out at this point. And that's why we've got this large advisory board and focus group, over 80 of us now working on this, and we're just about getting to the stage where the detectorist side focus group will be assisting us in this. So I know it's been confusing for people out there, but basically the association was set up because that's how the legal vehicle moves forward into an institute. So that's why you've got two things there.
Well, you've certainly answered one of the questions that Adrian has got. Adrian, do you want to elaborate on that question?
Yeah. Basically, I've had some questions that have been sent to me, Keith, via WhatsApp or Messenger or whatever from people. One I know, the others I don't even know who they are. So are you all right if I just go ahead and ask you them?
Yeah, ask away, please.
Yeah. Right. I won't say the surnames just in case someone goes around their house and eggs their car or something. This is from Lawrence. What is the actual name? As on the website, it quotes Institute of Detectorists, Association of Detectorists, the Detectorists Foundation, the Association of Detectorists, CIC, and the Detectorists Foundation, CIO.
Yeah, well, you can see the complications out there in trying to get this all put together. So the CIC, and you'll see this with the Veterans for Detecting as well, community interest company, and that basically means that profits need to be invested by law back into the community. So the Association of Detectorists, CIC, is the community interest company. The Institute of Detectorists is what we're working towards, but you can't just suddenly one day say, oh, I'm going to be an institute. So the work that we've been doing for education and such in over recent times have all sort of worked towards this point of having the Institute of Detectorists. Now, so that's all the same thing, really.
So the actual name is the Institute of Detectorists?
No, sorry. The actual name at this point is the Association of Detectorists, because we've not gone through the process, which is this project with Historic England, to get to the Institute. That's our goal. We're doing everything to get to the Institute, but that's going to be another 9 months of work before we get to that point. So the Association of Detectorists will then transition into the Institute.
Right.
Now,
So,
something I should have asked at the start. I do apologise for putting Adrian. Peter Ells brought up a question, and it should have been the question I asked first. What is the Association of Detectorists?
Okay. The Association of Detectorists, as of almost now, it is basically a national body which looks to support the code of practice for responsible metal detecting, to work for best practice, to develop best practice, to work with the different regulations and laws within the UK, because as you can imagine, it's very different into, say, Northern Ireland than it is in England. Scotland, obviously, with the Scottish Treasure Trove, is a very different scenario. So it is now becoming a membership body. Within the next few days, we'll start to take on a membership, and the reason for that is that it's taken so long to go through this Historic England process that so many people have just said to us, look, come on, we need to know what this is all about. And the only way I can really talk about aims and objectives as such is to actually set up the association and say, this is what we're trying to do. It's all about information, best practice, and also my real love, which is to try and embed metal detecting into professional practice, because it baffles me how we are in the 2020s now and the metal detector is so underutilized in archaeological projects and sites. I mean, one of the biggest ones in Oxfordshire, Westcott, or in fact, it was the biggest one ever. I went to see a talk about that, all in medieval Oxford. Incredible. They had 7 huge, great earth-moving machines and set up a museum on site. And at the end of the talk, I said, well, did you use any metal detectorists? And they said, no, we wish we would have done, because we'd have found so much to put in the museum. And, I think, oh, for goodness sake, what have we got to do to get metal detecting or the instrument really used as a matter of course? And so that is what we're working on. And at the moment, I'm working with HS2, and we're working on a completely new survey methodology. Which this is something that probably most people wouldn't have heard of, because I didn't. I asked, what the devil is this? It's geochemistry and magnetic susceptibility. But basically it means that where there's great big blank areas and the geophysics find it very difficult to define sites, like Saxon sites, these will actually try and pick up to see whether there'd been settlement there, and then metal detecting works in with that as well. So there are the two sides of it. There's the hobbyists who join and we'll be putting together different courses and information. In fact, at the moment, we're just working on a new video with the Portable Antiquities Scheme based on the code of practice. So those are the sorts of things that we're doing at the moment.
Right. You all right for me to carry on, Dave?
Yes, carry on. We will be going shortly over to the Diggers Dips draw and the adverts in 3 minutes, but crack on.
P. Writer Bund has messaged me. I understand you were successful, Keith, this is me saying that, in receiving funding from the government. How much was this and where has it been invested? Also, will you request more? And if so, what will this go towards?
Sure. Yeah, well, we got £50,000 through Historic England, which is government money, basically. And through that, we've employed a consultant, which is Dig Ventures. And Dig Ventures, you probably have come across because they did this Time Team reunion a couple of years ago at Lindisfarne, and they do lots of sort of pay for dig type of archaeological work rather than a sort of a rally where we detectorists will go and pay. These people will be paying money to go and dig on an archaeological site. So that's also gone to different legal side. We're employing solicitors on this, accountants. We've got another consultant working on there. So basically, it's gone for the work which has been done, and basically anything that I get out of this, I donate 50% of my time for nothing, and then I receive some as well. So I think about through the project, I'll probably be getting about 18,000 for my time. But bearing in mind, I've been working on this for 4 years in January, and I work full time constantly. In fact, in the last few weeks, I've been working 7 days a week. I've been working Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings. So it's I'd have done better picking and packing, I think.
Well, if you just excuse us, we're just going to go over. Luke's going to share the screen for this week's Diggers Dips prize draw. Oh, I forgot to go on it. There you go. So carry on, Adrian. I'm sure we can carry on chatting instead of waiting around.
P. Wright Bundy said also, will I don't know. Sorry, did you answer this? Will you request more money?
Yes. Yeah, the idea is that once we finish the feasibility study, it goes into business plan. The plan that we use then will go for the idea of launching the institute, and the idea has always been that we'll have a stakeholder supported bid to the National Lottery Heritage Fund, and that will be to launch the institute. So yes, we will be looking for further funds down the line.
Right.
Okay.
Pick a number between 1 and 35, Keith.
16.
I'll go for me lucky 7, Adrian.
Damn. 11.
Oh, low numbers. Better to the 30s now.
It's going to be 7.
Oh,
it's a fix if it is, Dave. This is.
Don't be 7. Oh, it's 7. Oh, it's 7, and it's Rob Random. Rob Random's going to love me. And Rob, I will be getting to your questions after the break. So thank you as ever to Diggers Dips for the donating the draw. And we'll have that at the same time. In fact, no, we won't have it at the same time next week because we won't be on air next week.
No.
So it's over to the advert. Thank you, Mr. Higgins.
Are you looking in the fridge right now? Are you even hungry? Tired of watching Tiger King? Have you done any exercise lately? Well, we have the solution for you.
Everybody, so first of all, we're going to get warmed up. The first move we're going to do is pump in the detector. Now go. Now go. Now go. Okay, you should be ground balanced now, guys. On to the next move. Okay, now for this next move, we're going to get swinging. Now swing. Now swing. Now swing. Now swing. Find that coin. Find that coin. Now swing. Now swing. Now swing. Now you've found that coin signal, let's get pinpointed. Are you ready? And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6. Now you've found that coin, are you ready to retrieve it? Now dig. 2, 3, 4. Dig. 2, 3, 4. Dig. 2, 3, 4. Dig. 2, 3, 4. Now we've got to find the coin. Are you ready? Now squat. All right, this one's easy. On 3, 2, 1, and dig, and dig, and dig, and search, and search, and search, and dig. And dig.
I'm Dave D, and you're watching XP Team USA.
I've got no idea what that first video was, but I was very mesmerised. Don't know why. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're here tonight with my co-host, Mr. Adrian Gaylor, and tonight's guest, Mr. Keith Westcott of the Association of Detectorists. Now, I just want to say, ladies and gentlemen in the chat room, this show is Luke, myself, and Adrian are basically drivers. We drive the vehicle, and the show is for everybody. It's for platform to everybody. We don't really want any abuse. We don't want anybody having a go at each other. That's not what it's about. We're a nice place. I'm the only person who's allowed to abuse people. So that in mind, let's crack on.
Yeah, I've just got to say what Daniel Spencer said, Dave. I think you pressed the wrong button with them women doing workouts with detectors.
I don't know how to press any buttons.
I thought it was one of your sort of secret videos that's locked on your PC that you watch late at night.
It's not mine, it's the boy Higgins.
Yeah, I bet it is, little monkey.
I'm going to go back up the thread a little bit because I've got one or two questions, and one of them is very important, I think, and that's from the average detectorist's perspective, which I can't find anymore. There's that. So it was just above that. And there it is. So there's two questions. The first one was from Rob Random. And I'm sorry these aren't in any particular order, Keith. We'll fire them at you because we haven't got there per se as yet. Sure. Rob Random asks, will this be compulsory to join to be able to detect? And in the same sort of manner, Will Helmsley asked, is the AOD aiming to control, license and regulate the hobby and detectorists? Surely the NCMD already represents us.
Yeah. Well, the easy answer when it comes to anything to do with regulating, legislating, licensing, anything like that, the answer is no. The direction I've come into this is that it's a growing hobby. We know that. There's lots of pressures because of the numbers that we're talking about here. We may say figures 20, 30, 40,000 detectorists. Well, the government figures have put in 1.5 to 1.6% of the population have had some involvement with a metal detector over a last 12-month period, which could be anything between 650,000 detectorists or people with a detector. Now, I thought that was mad, but the amount of people that I speak to now just about general things, who say, oh, yeah, we got a detector, or, yeah, we just bought one for the... there was an instance last week where the CEO of an organisation helping us with governance said, yeah, I've just bought one for my wife. So we know that there's a core of detectorists out there who are incredibly experienced, and the idea is that there's a lot of people coming into this new, and we've got to, I think about our impact when it comes to the heritage side of this, because if we don't, there is enough groundswell out there for others to try and impose things to us when it comes to things like legislation and licensing and such. And I think, we as detectorists, we've got a lot of us who are, we could always call us experts in what we do. We want to make sure that the newcomers come in, have chance to understand and learn from us, and then it's doing things that we think is right as detectorists to do, not what other people from outside of the hobby have telling us to do or imposing on us. So it's all about voluntary working to try and do things that we think is right without any outside interference. And just recently we formed the Detectorist Digs and Rallies group, because we know that there's a real focus on that at the moment when it comes to the heritage side of this. And it's a great opportunity for newcomers as well to get involved and go metal detecting. They might struggle to get land, so a rally is a good idea. But at the same time, there's a real focus on that from outside. And there is now, I've been talking about this to a couple of people for some time, that there is now an article out there written by Mike Hayworth and Michael Lewis from Portable Antiquities, which is saying that there should be legal liabilities from people who are in charge of rallies, the organisers, and permits, all these things that we don't want to happen. And my point of view is, look, if this is the pressure which is going to come on to us, let's just try and work all together and try and put out best practice. And we've had a situation where the code of practice for responsible detecting has been out there now for 3 years, and there is no endorsement of that code by any national body. Now, I know there's lots of reasons behind that, and I'm not sort of debating that, but at the end of the day, the heritage side of this see the fact that there's no detectorist body supporting the code of practice, which should be the glue which really holds the heritage side and the detectorists together. And we've sort of bowed out of that. So that there is real reasons, I think, that the Association of Detectorists and the Institute can go and really promote metal detecting, it's accepted widely across archaeologists and the heritage professionals that there's some great stuff that we do as detectorists, but there's also some not so good stuff. And it unfortunately quite often gets videoed and seen. And at the end of the day, we really must try and understand that if it is a find which is down there in the subsoil where we shouldn't be digging into, that if we do think that there's something of real importance there, that we get archaeologists out to help us. The problem is that I know as a detectorist that every day you go out, you get a bloody great signal, which is deep, which is going to be one lump of ferrous or whatever. So how do we deal with that situation? Because a good example is that Bronze Age hoard in Scotland fairly recently, which was the Bronze Age horse harness. And the great thing there, where the detectorists stopped and the archaeologists came in, they could find material, literally leather, and for the first time they've been able to work out how this horse harness went together because of the fact that there was the archaeological record was still there rather than being dug out. So there's some real good points behind it, I think.
Okay. Adrian?
Question here from D Rush. I think we've covered it. I love the idea, but what has caused the IOD to come together? As I understand, some are not happy with the NCMD communicating with its members, but naturally you cannot keep everyone happy. I'm an NCMD member, but interested in the IOD. What is the difference?
I think the first thing that we should think of there is that I've been an NCMD member in the past, back in the 90s, and what I'm trying to do with the association and the institute isn't against the NCMD at all. And I think there's lots of room to have two national bodies out there working for the good of the interest. And the NCMD may come from a slightly different direction to what I do, but there's plenty of room for us out there to do it. And I really hope that in the future we can try and work closer together and see that we're doing this for the good of the hobby. That's how.
Okay. He's also gone on to say, do you think there is an issue with best? This has just been sent to me, actually. He's sent me another message. You state best practice from the IOD, but do you think there's a problem with this? And where's it going wrong? Hence the portable antiquities. Oh, he's going on about stats. In Treasure Hunting magazine this month, there's a portable antiquities scheme annual report, and it clearly states in there that 90% of finds were recorded by metal detectorists, 4,000 individuals. So people are reporting finds. So what do you feel is not being carried out as best practice? I think where he's coming from.
I mean, a good example, if we're talking about the portable antiquities as annual report, if you go back through the last couple, I've not seen the most recent one, but take 2017, 93% was found by detectorists. Out of that, when it comes to things like pasture or woodland, anywhere where a plough hasn't been, there's only 2.5% of those finds found from that type of land. Now, you only have to look through social media sites, rallies, and you can see that pasture is regularly almost targeted by detectorists, because the finds out there haven't gone through the tumble dryer of the plough and had the chemicals on them, so they're in a lot better condition. And so I think that the figures don't make any sense to me at all, 2.5%, because we know that the majority of the time it's arable land which is under crop, and but I think that the key thing to this, to me as a detectorist, is that, if we don't detect on things like pasture, they're never going to be found. You're not going to get archaeologists going around in fields trying to find things. I know in finding a huge archaeological site, the difficulty of getting archaeologists involved in it, because everything's so costly and commercially driven. So I'm a great supporter of digging on pasture, but in a much more ordered way, really, because you've got to really think that these finds could have been in their place in antiquity. That's where they've been since for centuries. And the good example there, I saw a helmet come out. I can't remember what it's called, where you've got a bear on the top of it, and everything else around it was actually ferrous, which was all rotting away. But if you'd have done that as a detectorist going into pasture, we would have just dug straight through the lot and picked out the actual non-ferrous part of it. But the actual helmet itself, would have been destroyed in what we're doing. So, I haven't got an answer to this, because it's not easy to know when the code of practice talks about things don't damage the archaeological value of the land. Think about the stratified deposits. These are all parts of the code of practice. It isn't straightforward how to deal with it, and I haven't got the answers. But I think it's something that we need to work on together and think about to try and find a better approach. And the course that we put on at University of Oxford, that was actually more about working with archaeological sites. And in that instance, we had 40 odd people come to the day course there. It was oversubscribed, and but it went down really well. We had a 95% approval rating on it, and it ended up winning the Archaeological Training Forum Awards 2019. The year before, it's Historic England. The next year, it was us as detectorists win the award. So, there's a real acceptance out there that detecting has got some real good benefits to heritage.
Right. Okay. No, thanks for that.
I've got a question from Craig Denny. He asked, "What is going on? What is going to do? What is the AOD going to do to help rebuild the trust between the British Museum and detectorists after the BM imposed the restrictions on detectorists during the lockdown?" And he says he knows quite a few people who have discovered hoards, have been asked to leave them for a period of time, and they've now been waiting over 2 years, but the hoard's still within the ground.
Right. Well, I think the first thing is I think that's unfair to say the British Museum had anything to do with that lockdown, because they were asked, through Portable Antiquities, for advice of what to do over these periods. Like the first lockdown period, you can see that there is issues or concerns about, what will happen if there's a hoard found, who's going to come out and do it. I've been in regular contact with PAS over this last period and asking them questions about this, because it was bonkers to me, absolutely crazy way that the government dealt with this. And I wrote to them and picked out lots of holes and inconsistencies in their approach to this, that the Department of Digital, Cultural Media and Sport. And the final really answer that I got back from this was that we hadn't been singled out. What had happened is, when it comes to things like fishermen and rough shooting and things like that, it was the national bodies involved which took their own advice and legal advice on this, and they then said to their members that this is what you can do. Because I wanted to do exactly the same, and they basically said to me that, okay, but on your head be it, because if you go out there and give advice to detectorists that you can get out and detect, like you can rough shoot and fish and whatever, that if anything goes wrong with that, it's down to you with your advice. And I said, well, I can't do that. I mean, it'd be a mad thing to do. But if you look at the wording from most of the outdoor recreational bodies out there, you'll see that it was all their own interpretation of what the guidance said.
Now, I've got another question that I think's very important question, to be honest. It's from Darren Booth, History on Earth, and the reason I asked this, I will add a little bit onto the end. He says, as an NCMD member, I'm being made to understand, wrongly or rightly, he's confused, that the AOD are a threat to the hobby. He's here to try and understand. And I'd like to add to that, Keith, can you explain to the general metal detectorists, the general hobbyists, what AOD would be able to offer the general metal detectorists, the normal man on the street?
Well, I see this as the sort of interconnection, really, between archaeology, heritage, and metal detecting. And my view, whether you agree with it or not, is that if we want our hobby to continue with the freedoms that it's got, we've got to try and put things in place between us to make sure that we're not having others out there telling us what we should and shouldn't do. And as I say, the article out there today has actually gone live saying that they feel that there should be let me read this to you quickly, because then you'll see what I'm saying. This says, the law also needs to ensure that organisers take more responsibility, perhaps giving them a legal liability, and assume that the associated costs with compliance of the law and best practice to ensure that treasure is reported, in situ archaeologies is dealt with properly, and fines are not exported without the appropriate checks. So they're actually saying that you as organisers, there's plenty of organisers will be watching, that you could be legally liable for this. Now that is frightening. So it goes on to say, for too long, organisers have been able to hide behind the finder, but in the case of other areas of mass participation, such as music and sporting events, the organiser has a responsibility to ensure that the law is followed. Why should metal detecting rallies be any different? And a comparable permit system could be put in place to regulate these events, to facilitate the enforcement of good practice and provide options for the rejection of rallies proposed for sensitive archaeological sites. If you're going closer to an archaeological site with a rally. So, there it is there. The digs, Detectorist Digs and Rallies group, what we've done in setting that up is knowing that these things are coming and saying we don't want to be told from outside of the interest that this is what you got to do, this is legislation they're talking about here. The support that we've had from Digs and Rallies organisers, I think we've got 62 in the group, about mid-30s have put through their logos to go onto the Association of Detectorists site to say that they're not only supporting the code of practice, but they will actually work for best practice and work together for the best of our interest. And we've got to think of our interest not just as detectorists. We've got to think about where we are in society, really, to make sure that we do good for everyone. And it's that balance which will then allow us to continue like we are for years to come. I don't know if it's a good word, but self-regulating. It's a word that's often used. It really just means that us involved in the hobby ourselves can think between us what is right and wrong moving forward.
But again, Keith, you didn't actually answer one of the questions, and again, it's being brought up throughout the comment section. What will the AOD offer to a solo hobbyist?
Yeah, because sorry, butting in there, Dave. That document you just read stated clubs and organised digs and rallies. It didn't say anything about me and my mate who go in the field at the weekend. So how will that affect us?
No. That this is. I think there's a real focus on digs and rallies at the moment, Yeah, I think the MCMD have mentioned in the past that there are people out there which will try and make changes, and I don't disagree with that. And I agree with the MCMD where they say that we need to protect the hobby. All I'm doing is coming from a different direction and saying the way to protect it is to try and put in best practice, the educational courses that we're putting on. I mean, these are award-winning courses as well. So it can go from anything from newcomers coming into this. I mean, I did one down in Bristol a couple of years ago now, where we gave talk to newbies just before they went into doing a form of rally. And there's lots of great things that we can do. But I suppose the answer is that the MCMD are looking at protecting the hobby from one direction. We're looking at protecting the hobby from another direction on trying to work with heritage and archaeologists to try and do what is a balance, really. And it's that sort of balanced way moving forward, which I think is going to be good for the hobby.
Okay. Thanks.
Can I actually just, I just remembered a couple of things which have been asked. It was said about the Detectorists Foundation as another name, and it was shown as a CIO. Now, the biggest problem when we come to being told not to dig into subsoils and to stop digging is what happens beyond that point, because there's no systematic approach across the country to how this is dealt with. And so the idea of the Detectorists Foundation is it's a complete charity, crystal clear. Every penny which will be raised will go to trying to help this situation, so that we've got people across the country. So on a Sunday afternoon, a hoard's found, a phone call is made, and there can be a pot of money there for an archaeologist, £300 or whatever, to come out on a Sunday afternoon and deal with a hoard. So it was Craig who asked about that earlier, didn't he? Saying about the issues to do with hoards and archaeologists. It's a real problem. But why don't we, as detectorists, we're the ones who are almost creating that scenario because we're finding it. Why don't we put in place ourselves a scenario that we can get our finds that we want to treasure ourselves and love, you're looked after in a way that then it goes into the heritage side, for conservation and such. But I think it would be great if we can try and work together and put some money into it ourselves. Even if it's just £1 for everyone going on to a rally, as a donation, that would really help.
Yeah, I mean, the only issue you've got is I feel for people who don't have permissions and they're new to the hobby and they've got the machine sitting there. They've watched like 40 hours of YouTube videos and they're desperate to get out and detect, but they can't. So they go on and organise club dig and meet people, learn about the hobby and understand what they should and shouldn't do. But on the other side of the coin, which I've personally been affected with as well, is you can be detecting on a lovely permission, know the farmer really well for 5-10 years, and then suddenly he phones you up and says, "Oh, sorry, you can't come anymore because I've got a club chucking me £3,000 or an organised dig," and you've lost that permission. So there's also, for the single man who goes out there detecting, who's been doing it for years on a permission, he can get pretty much shafted because money talks. And it's very sad, and I've seen that many times where people have had a permission for years and a club's come along or an organised dig and he's lost that permission. And that's when the farmer can't control what we were saying. There is an issue there because certain people don't report fines supposedly. So it is something that does, I feel, need a little bit more control.
Yes, it's a complicated subject. I mean, I think it's often played down. The hobby is all about this sort of random searching for casual losses. When in reality, it's much more complicated than now. You don't go and spend a morning in the in the library any longer. Within minutes on the internet through LiDAR and Archi UK and things, you can find sites to target where even the landowner doesn't know has got archaeological features on his land. So it's much more complicated than just turning around and saying, "Oh, well, I don't know what the AOD are doing here." It's these things do need to be looked at. And the thing is, when it comes to the digs and valleys, that there's never been a home for them at all. And what we're trying to do there is saying, well, within the association, let's try and just put things together. We've got Mark Becker there, chairing this, and he's somebody who's always pushed that responsible sort of attitude to metal detecting on rallies, and we will cordon off if there's going to be an important find, and certainly when you look back through some of the Portable Antiquities records, you see that they found a lot and recorded a lot. So it is all about trying to just have this approach.
Yeah, that brings me on to the next question, actually, which Jason Matthews just brought up from Remy. The Portable Antiquities scheme does a great job, especially in this day and age with COVID. However, it is sad they still have to rely on antiquated paperwork and systems to report a find. Whereas if I submit a find to a magazine, for example, I can do it all online, upload the image and information. Do the IOD have any plans to help improve this process, i.e. an app to register finds? Which I personally can agree with that, because I've been fortunate enough to submit stuff to the Portable Antiquities scheme, my local PAS, and it's carbon copy paper, fill it in, they post it off. And in this day and age, you'd think, Detector Network, prime example, just an app was launched, the other month for your phone. Whereas I think if you give people the right tools for the job and tell them to use them, it will hopefully get information quicker to the PAS and stuff. So is there any plans for you guys to look at help develop an app with them?
Yeah, it's a huge problem. How do we go forward? We know that, let's say that we get a lot more of groups, rallies and digs recording, how are PAS going to cope with it, because they're struggling as it is anyway. Yeah. And I think that this lockdown period has really brought this home to them, and they know that the only way we can really move forward is some sort of digital approach in the future. And we've got to try and do things which fit into how PAS works, because if we just bombard them with thousands of images, it will just create chaos. And I think the MCMD have spoken to PAS about this, and we have, and I think between us all, we've got to find something which works on all platforms, works and makes sense to everybody involved. And I like, we've done a lot of work on an app where it's all voice controlled. In that instance, I have the phone mounted in front of me. You can see where you've gone and where you haven't gone, so you're not walking over the same ground and such. And you can talk to it, so you don't have to have muddy gloves to, press in information. You can just feed in the information. It takes a photograph and does the GPS. We've looked at triangulating signals in a way to try and get that actual GPS accuracy up as well. So there's lots of things we can do there. But to be honest, none of this is really going to help too much if it just bombards PAS with loads of photographs. And I think those are the sorts of issues that the NCMD and ourselves have got to try and get our heads together and work through and try and find a good way. And when I talk about the NCMD as well, I mean, we know that we're talking about £8 or so as a membership. I mean, what is that? That's a large kebab and chips, isn't it, for the cost for a year? And I would love to think that there would be members join in both of us as well, rather than just one or the other, because it's a big subject. There's lots of good that we can all do together.
Right. Okay. So you've been looking at potentially doing an app.
Well, we've got the we are 95% of the way of an app completed. It's gone into test flight, which means it's gone up as an app which can be tested. And but again, to me, that's probably more about trying to make sure that we're recording properly as we're digging, rather than passing that straight to Paz. I think when you get it back home, that's where it's got to be photographed in a much better way. And I think there's other places like is it Denmark and Holland are now working on these digital type of schemes. So it is being done in different countries. So I'm sure that through next year, PAS will be working on a system that we can try and integrate with.
Okay. Now, to the person who seems to think that I'm picking and choosing my questions, that is most certainly not the case. I had an abundance of questions before the show sent to me, as has Adrian. So I'm sorry we're not able to get to every question within an hour and a half broadcast. We are trying to get to all the questions, and there are a lot. And I'm sure if you were to communicate with Keith outside of the show, Keith would in some way get back to you and, answer your questions. But unfortunately, we have an hour and a half. It's a live show. We have a lot to fit in. And I'm certainly not picking and choosing my questions, as is the case when I ask the next one, which is, and this is a text one, so I'm reading it out. Is it fair to say that for all the good work the NCMD does, that they seem to want to separate the hobby from archaeology? Would I be right by saying that the IOD looks at this differently and wants to make this relationship more harmonious? And if so, how do you see this working?
Yes. Again, I think we're just coming to it from slightly different directions. And I just don't want this to be seen as if we're trying to go up against the NCMD on this. I think, it makes sense for us all to work together on this. But our perspective is coming in from the heritage side. We're just joining the Heritage Alliance. So where the MCMD are with the Sports Alliance, we know that the Department of Digital, Cultural, Media and Sport, we're aligning with the cultural side, which is cultural materials and heritage, and MCMD align with the sports side of it. That's healthy, isn't it? I think we're coming from two different directions, and I think the problem comes when people think that because of some of the names involved in the project with Historic England, people like Mike Hayworth, that they're actually there to impose new legislation and licensing and things like that. It didn't. We've got the same amount of detectorists, 40 something on the focus group, as we have got archaeologists and heritage people as well. And so between us, we're trying to find that sort of middle ground, and it, to me, it's like a seatbelt. Evidently, I heard the other day Sterling Moss was really dead against seatbelts and we've just seen that terrible crash on Formula One. We get to a situation where you jump in the car and you expect people to put seatbelts on. It'd be great if we get to a situation in a few years' time when somebody is saying, "My God, I've got this is a really deep signal that I can start to find something." And I don't want to knock what was said earlier about this incredible hoard, but to sort of dig them up and take them away in plastic bags isn't really the best. The best way of doing it. There may be reasons why he's done that, because he's worried about the value of the hoard or whatever. But
I think it was to be fair, it was on a public footpath, and when you're looking at potentially what could be £500,000 worth of gold, I think that's why he moved it. But he did keep all the soil and the remnants in the bag.
Yeah, good. I mean, it's a difficult one, but the thing is, what we've got to look beyond, I think, at times, is the monetary value of these things, and think of the historical and heritage knowledge and value of what we're finding. And I think you'll find very soon that the new Treasure Act will come out and start to get us to think a little bit more about items which aren't necessarily precious materials at all, but are precious historically. And so the answer to that question which comes through, yes, this is all about trying to align and work with heritage and archaeological side of things, and do things which are going to come from, well, I say come from the that sort of perspective. Put it this way: when you're detecting and you find something, that individual find, you don't know whether that is part of a wider deposit, of an archaeological deposit or not. And it might not be for 50 years that something else is found, and there is a sort of a contextual relationship with it. A great example for that is things like Celtic coins, or we're on a point here where we've got the Catapholornes coming on one and the Dubonis coming from the other side, and where the coins are is giving us an idea of where the borders are in these tribes. We don't know until years gone by that the things that we're recording has got some sort of relevance. So am I going off on one there? I don't know.
No, it's interesting because Dave Taylor in the chat has just commented about the PAS should put a pamphlet in each new box with websites to read the rules. And it's true, because if you go out and buy, I don't know, take for example in the late 70s, early 80s, you bought a box of fireworks and you had to have the firework code in the box. All right, you won't blow your head off with a metal detector, well, unless you get a mine. But
you're obviously not me, are you?
No, but it's a good point. If you buy a metal detector, there should be a document in there stating, the Institute of Detectorists, NCMD, or whatever, or go to this, because I think Dave, you mentioned it, or someone said with the lockdown rules where people were getting confused, it was saying you can detect in public places. So people were detecting in parks, and when they were stopped and questioned by the police, they just showed them their phone with what the guidelines were, and the police let them carry on, in a playground, in a park. So it is a bit bizarre that for the sake of not a lot of money, a pamphlet could be put together, and every single distributor and dealer in the UK has to put one in a box.
Well, I think that's a good point for me to say what we're trying to do with the Association of Detectorists at the moment, because there'll be there are a lot of people out there who think that this is all about us trying to impose things where it isn't. And so what we've done is to think, well, who are the people out there which are really influential in the hobby? When you look at it, it's a show like this, it's the magazines of the searcher and treasure hunting, it's the manufacturers, and it's the distributors of these. Because at the end of the day, if anybody can get the information back out, like you've just said, it's when newbies are coming in and buying detectors, and when that's always a good example, I think, really.
I think where, leisure promotions and Regtons were just saying in the chat, they do that. They put it in the box. I think the issue we've got is more with certain large e-commerce sites that aren't if someone's going to buy a detector, I'd say do not buy it off wingwangwong.com or a large e-commerce site where it's got loads of reviews. I would say go to your local dealer and find the right machine. So it's bizarre that they're doing it to help the hobby, but you can sell it eBay or anywhere without that information. It should be not a legal requirement, but it should be almost on that.
Adrian, can I just interject? There's actually no such website as wingwangwong.com. I've actually just checked, and there isn't on. And I also want to point out it's 9:30, so we are going to be wrapping up shortly as well.
Oh,
Can
you want
I,
to watch I'm a Celebrity?
let me just come back on that quickly then. Yeah, I think there are things in the code of practice which are very complicated, like understanding the archaeological values of the land and the stratified deposits and such. So there's things that we need to try and explain better moving forward, which can be put in the boxes going out with the code of practice and such. And so, as I was saying, the advisory board that we put together now with the Association of Detectorists is to take all of these well-known, respected people in the industry to come together and make sure that what we're trying to do with the Association of Detectorists is for the benefit of detecting, and it isn't to do with any other sort of myth which has been sort of peddled behind that. And I think you've got our board as a photograph, have you, that you can put up?
1 moment.
Because I think that that hopefully will be able to sort of explain where we're trying to go with this. Because if this was all about trying to do negative things, the last thing we would do is have advisors on there whose sort of businesses and livelihoods depend on working with archaeology.
So I just want to point out before you actually go into that. An advisory board is consisting of people who are advisors to everything that's going on within the Association of Detectorists.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that any of these are aligned with the AOD in any way, shape, or form. It's at the moment all have agreed to come together for the benefit of seeing the AOD does reach a level which they're all happy with. Am I right in saying that?
Most definitely, because it's no good putting an advisory board together when you want everybody to say yes. This is all about people with knowledge and flesh in the game sort of thing to make sure that it's right. And so as you'd have seen up on there, you've got all of the main distributors with manufacturers and the main media side of it all coming together to try and work for the benefit of this hobby. I'm really very, very pleased that everybody has come in and is working together for this. So yeah, I'm very pleased with that. Oh, there we are. Yeah. I just mentioned the AFD receiving advice from key detectorist stakeholders. That's what it is. It's just advice from people which all believe, I think I'm right in saying, all believe that actually trying to develop best practice and this sort of an approach from within the hobby is a healthy thing for the hobby.
Sorry, that's AOFD.
Yeah, it's A of D. It's the A of D is the Association of Detectorists, and it will go into the I of D.
Right.
It was AOD and IOD, and there'll be people watching this at the moment which will know what that's all about.
Okay,
I'll say no more about that.
I think the way I think because it's still early days, and you're putting a lot of work in. The way I can sort of in my head tell me if I'm completely off track here. I buy a car and I've got a handbook and it tells me how to drive that car and go from A to B and check the oil. If I want to find out more about that car and do more with that car, I get a Haynes manual without plugging Haynes. I don't work for them. And I can find out more and research more. Am I off on the wrong track there? Is that what I am?
Not at all. This is why I'm always a bit nervous about saying education here, because some people will turn around and say, I've been a detectorist for years. Who the bloody hell is going to tell me what is right and wrong? And it's not about that. I did a 10-week course at Oxford, archaeology in practice. Now, I left school at 15. So by the age of 16, I'd done some of the most bloody dangerous and horrendous work you could ever imagine. So I didn't go down the route of universities. So when I did walk to Oxford University to go onto that course, I didn't know quite what to think about it. And it was fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So, as detectorists, which have got this inquiring mind and interest in our history and our past, we want this education, then, if we're going to call it, or information, to be all about just growing our interest in the hobby, expanding it, and it's really, really fascinating. And once you start to get into understanding the landscapes, and when we talk about context, context isn't all about what's actually sat around the find. You've got the contextual landscape, so the relevance of everything around you. And when you start to plot all this in, and you can start to rewrite history as detectorists, not archaeologists, not blinking professors or whatever, just detectorists, we can actually contribute so much to this that thankfully that there's so many detectorists out there which feel passionate like I do about it to support what we're trying to do. And I know this isn't going to be the answer for everyone, and but thank God there's a good enough proportion of people out there who really think that the way forward is to develop this side of things.
Now, Keith, I do have one more question. I didn't want to go here, but considering that I obviously don't answer any of the questions that are being asked, I'm going to ask this one. Well, two questions, actually. The first one, NCMD recently sent out a letter to members. How would you respond to that letter?
I don't know, really, because I suppose if I was the MCMD and I was coming from this direction, which I do, which is more from the heritage side of it, I would be quite concerned and worried about it, and think, especially that there are some names behind the scenes, because I read it out tonight, what's being said by Michael Lewis and Mike Hayworth regarding rallies and such. So that it's true that there are people out there which want to to make changes or impose changes, but I hope it's come across tonight that what I'm trying to say is that actually there's lots of detectorists out there which think that there could be better ways of thinking about things and doing things, and so I passionately believe that we should, as detectorists, try and do things right ourselves. So it's easy to knock, I think, their response by saying that you better be wary about the AFD, but they're coming from they're coming from a direction where there is some truth in that, but not in the AOD because of what we're trying to do from within the hobby as detectorists. But there are people outside of the hobby which are getting pretty sort of worried about the fact that this is a hobby growing so fast. So I can understand where they've come from on this, and I just hope if there's anybody watching this tonight from the MCMD and think, well, actually, perhaps we could work with Keith on this, that there's enough room for both of us out there coming from different directions, but with the detecting as the sort of the main heart of this.
Mm-hmm. And the final question I've got, in 10 years' time, theoretically, the IOD is there. It's an influence within all the communities that you hope it to be. How has it made the hobby better for us and any new people in the hobby?
Well, for a start, hopefully it's still there, because this is no joke. That what's been written here, which has only just been released today, I've been aware of it for weeks that it was coming, and there it is in black and white. If you want to see what the pressures that can come from outside is all about, it's there. And I was a government advisor on microgeneration in the past year, but I was chairman of British Standards for heating, the UK principal expert in European standards. I've worked in government, sort of situations, and if you can push and push and push to a point where it suddenly breaks, and then things can really dramatically change. Because if you are in charge of a rally group of 100 people, but you're legally liable for anything which goes on in that, then they will soon be able to target you and the situation. So this isn't about a scaremongering situation. This is a reality that we've got to think about doing things differently. And this is what the DDRG is all about, because all of these rally organisers have come together to work together and to look at this. And, we might have an educational course put there, which means that an organiser goes through this course first before he's then responsible and in charge of this. So the answer is, in 10 years' time, I've set this up in a way that soon, probably summer of next year, I step down away from it. I'll still work into trying to drive it forward as like a CEO, but there could be 12 trustees between detecting and archaeologists, and 40 advisory council, and it really will be for detectorists and heritage people to work together. And in 100 years' time, as an institute, it should still be there trying to do things for the right way. Because you imagine 200 years' time, that people will be looking back and thinking, well, those decades where the detectorists were out there in such numbers, if they only were recording more and trying to work out how it all fitted into this jigsaw of heritage, we would know so much more. And we've got such a fantastic history in this country. We should be doing everything to try and, I love history. That's my son, by the way, up there. He was out in Afghanistan, Lance Corporal in the Grenadiers, lost a lot of people out in there, and I think our British history that we've got is bloody so unique and important that if we can try and learn more when we're going along, then that's got to be a good thing.
I've just had one quick question, Dave, sent to me. If that's all right?
Yes, no problem.
P. Patterson, after seeing tonight's show, are you concerned, this is to you, Keith, that this will scare off detectorists and take the hobby into disrespect or something by not recording fines? I think, and basically people not abiding by the rules.
Well,
because I think what he's saying, he's sent loads of stuff, but he's basically saying that if it does get governed and we get restricted, whereas at the moment they're likely to report fines, if they have to be part of something they don't want to be part of, they're just going to go and detect and not report anything. Because there is, obviously, you've got to have the detectorists on the side, that's the key thing. And I think we have seen some stuff that people have said which it isn't, well, I don't think it's true. They're just seeing it as a threat. So is there any concern that it could cause adverse effect to the hobby by scaring people?
Well, I mean, I hope what's come across tonight, and if it hasn't come across, I've done something wrong. It should be coming across that this is all about detectorists working together to try and work out the best way forward, which pleases everyone. The threats from outside is what we're trying to fend off. That's what we're trying to say. Look, don't come to us with saying that there must be legislation and permits and things put in place. Give us a chance to do that. And I had a meeting with the government this week, and I was with talking with the head of cultural material, and there will be a focus in the next couple of years on things like rallies, digs and rallies. But what they said to me was that now we've got a group where all of the people are coming together that we can work with and try and do something, for the good of the hobby, because they don't want to see any imposing of licenses or anything. They want to see us trying to work within the hobby ourselves to put things in place. And so if I've done anything to make anyone think that I'm for any licensing or regulations, then I've done something wrong, because it is not the case. This is just a voluntary situation. The good thing is about the voluntary side of it, just look at the people on that Digs and Valleys group and see how they're trying to to be involved in this, and I think that tells us everything.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, that was one question. That was one that wasn't a load of people saying that. It was just P. Patterson.
Marcus Ragden's asked me, could he see a post? And I'm not 100% sure what post you're on about, Marcus, I'm afraid.
Is
Sorry.
it about the document that was brought out today that Keith read out?
Ah, right. Was that what you're on about, Keith? The documents come out today?
Yeah, no, this is an article which has come out today. And so the bit which I read was in it was in the British Archaeology magazine, and it's a very long article that I've just read. The bit which is all about thoughts of permits and legislation when it comes to digs and valleys. But when I thought that the idea of setting up this Digs and Valleys group and speaking to Mark Becker and asking him to chair this, it was all about knowing that these things are coming along, and actually we want to be at the front of this, and we want to actually forge our own future rather than anybody else saying what should and shouldn't be done. So that is an article. It's literally just come out today, that one. But also what you will also find is that there's an embargo on it at the moment, but there is a press release at the moment from the government on the Treasure Act. And so I was talking with the Times today, and that will be quite interesting. Their approach on this.
Now, Luke's asked, just for a quick explanation, if you can, you've mentioned the DDRG a number of times. Can you just elaborate on that a little bit for us?
Yeah. So the Detectorists Digs and Valleys group, it's like a special interest project group within the Association of Detectorists. So quite like the Chartered Institute for Archaeology has special interest groups, and that they sort of run on their own for decades and things. What we've done is we've set up this group, and one of the things that we've asked is if you are an organizer of a dig and rally and you want to be visibly seen to support the code of practice, and also want to be seen as trying to work towards developing new best practice for this, then send your logos through, and the new Association of Detectorists website will be out in the next few days, and the page there will show all of these different, and I think there's about 36 different groups in there at the moment, and around 62 members, and each member should be closely involved with digs and rallies. So it's all about thinking to ourselves, well, okay, let's try and find a consistency, because we want to make sure that things are the same in Cornwall as they are in Cumbria, and we're all approaching it in the same way, so that if there is somebody just saying, oh crikey, we just found something here, what do we do? We've got a similar approach to knowing how to deal with that, and how then to get people in to come and excavate it. It may be not as complicated as an institute find. It could be a scattered deposit. So let's say that there was a villa site that's been undiscovered there, and there suddenly you've got 15 detectorists coming from all different directions, picking up coins and such. And if we're now trying to record this, and you know that the other detectorist next to you is going to record it, that's got a deposit will then all be locked in a way that it will be known forever that this is a historical site, and to build off of it, rather than have a situation where actually everything just disappears, or somebody mentioned the other day hoovered up, and there's never any record of it happening.
So, for anybody who does want any more information regarding the AOD and the future of the AOD, what's happening there, where is the best place to find that?
Yeah, I was hoping it was going to be done. I think we're in the same position, Dave. I think you were hoping that. Well, you said something earlier on those lines, but no, the Association of Detectorists website is going to be completely changed, because everything's really out of date on the old one, and that should happen in the next few days. And so if you look at detectorists.org.uk, that's a website. The one you'll see at the moment is pretty awful, which will be disappearing. And but before Christmas, that will be all up and running, and it will be open for membership.
Marvellous.
Brilliant.
Adrian, have you anything to add before we depart these people?
Just one quick question. Are we talking about England, Scotland and Wales, or just England?
No, England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. We've also, but actually, we're still in the situation where the project is going on. So the project through Historic England for forming the institute will continue for the next sort of 6-7 months or so. And there we've got all of the national museums, the national agencies being the government agencies. We've got all of the main landowner bodies involved, the Institute of Conservation. Anyone you can think of is on that advisory board, and that's for England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland. But we've also got the chief archaeologist of Ireland on as an observer on that as well. The thing is there with Ireland, which has got a different approach to metal detection. They're really keen on working with detectorists on archaeological sites, and that may be as well with community archaeologists, where there may be metal detecting licenses given out with a community archaeologist to do work, which will be a real new thing for Ireland on that. So it's certainly the UK, but it could spread a bit further. And certainly the work that we're doing on methodologies and such, hopefully will be looked at in different countries as well. I mean, I'll just mention quickly that I received a scholarship to go over to Virginia a couple of years ago and work on the fourth president and founder of the Constitution, President James Madison Estate. And that was working with detectorists and archaeologists. And the course was all about building bridges between archaeologists and detectorists. And not that it would get detectorists too excited, because what we were looking for is nails. That's what we were surveying, is for nails. But because we know that the wrought nails and the rose design on them was from a particular time of the late 18th century, we could then find out where the enslaved quarters were. And now they're actually understanding now how the president and the slaves were sort of positioned on that estate. So there isn't much being done in other countries when it comes to this, but let's hope we can all work together on this.
Thank you. My final question: will you be at the next Detectable?
Yes, if Mark invites me. In fact, he invited me to the last one, and but we wasn't in a position to be able to go at that time, because we just wasn't. We're still as just a project, a feasibility study at that stage. Right. And but I did, as Mark will tell you, I did put together a leaflet to give out to everyone there, which had a scale on for doing photographs and things. So brilliant. I did support at that point.
Excellent. Thanks, Keith. Thanks for coming on. And yeah, it's definitely got a lot of people talking. So thanks for coming on tonight, and I hope you don't keep working 7 days a week. You need to be around if you want it to succeed. We don't want to hear you.
I'll tell you what, I started at 4:30 Sunday morning because I couldn't sleep. And Monday this week, I was so bloody head gone. I couldn't do a thing. I was useless all day Monday. So you can get to a stage of burnout, can't you? But
Get out detecting.
That would be better. But that was still on lockdown times then, unfortunately.
Well, again, Keith, thanks for coming on the show tonight. It's been a pleasure to obviously speak to you in depth. I'm apologise for the questions that I didn't get because I'm like that. But there has been a lot of questions via text, via Facebook, via the comments box at the side, all over the place. So thanks for that. And I hope it has given the viewers the information that they wanted, both for good or for bad. They can obviously make their own minds up. We're not here to change any minds. We're here to give the information. So I hope you've felt that you've been able to get your word across, Keith. I know there's some things that we weren't able to touch on because obviously we were getting the most questions we've ever had, Adrian.
I've still got a load to ask, but no doubt.
Yeah. Well, I'm always pleased to come back on again. And as you can see, I'm quite happy talking away. The problem is stopping me.
Well, again, we much appreciate your time and effort this evening. And as I say, next week, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget that we won't be airing on, what day is it? Thursday. We'll be airing on Friday from around 7 till 9, Saturday 7 till 10, and Sunday 7 till 10 with the live Detectable. The Friday show will be more or less an introduction. And Saturday and Sunday, I haven't got a clue because Mark Betch is dealing with it. So we look forward to seeing you next week. Again, thank you to Keith. Thank you for everyone viewing. Thank you for Luke in the producer's box. And to Mr. Gaylor. Welcome back, Mr. Gaylor. And we hope everything's groovy there. Thanks
Good
again,
luck everyone
Adrian.
this weekend. Get out there. Oh.
Have a great weekend metal detecting. Don't mind the snow. Do it anyway.
If you can't get out, get a copy of that and read about hordes and things. So, but good luck everyone this weekend. I can't wait. I cannot wait to go out this weekend.
Chilly beans, mate. Calm down.
I know, but you know what it's like.
Yeah, but you look all excited and stuff, and, it just...
I am.
You're usually so mild-mannered and quiet.
No, but those fields, I know it's going to be cold and wet and windy, but I'm looking forward to it. The fields are nice and flat, and, looking forward to getting out there.
Brilliant.
So, good luck, everyone.
Well, that's Keith Westcott, that's Adrian Gaylor, I'm Dave Sadler, and that's Luke Higgins. Thank you, everybody, and good night.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Luke, I said good night. Luke. Button.
Almost 29.
And of course, it's got it written on a hat, so I'm fine with that. We can see that anyway. So how are you enjoying that?
Oh, fantastic.
walking in the rain, tears are falling and I feel the pain. Wishing you were here by me to end this misery. And I wonder if lovely. Why? She ran away, and I wonder when she will stay here. My little runaway, I run away. I run away. I run away.
I'm Dave D, and you're watching XP Team USA.
History. Make sure you get subscribed.
There you go.
Simplex with the simplex.
Sorry about the ambush, mate. I'm sort of going to ambush She's talking Turkish, I don't understand that. So Dilek,
Yes,
how's it going?
very well. It was for us. It was a very successful event. Yeah.
Last night's launch, I'll tell you how many viewers it's had, but you won't be surprised because it was a very novel way of introducing the simplex.
Thank you. Yeah, we were so happy with the. We had a huge. With the interest, we had a huge crowd here, and I felt bad because the guys here at the back couldn't really see the mermaid show. So I felt a little bit bad, but we were very happy with the, number of people that were there to watch us. So yeah.
Well, I was very lucky. Obviously, the position I was in, I was able to film the mermaid.
No, it's been really, really good. I couldn't have wished for anything better, actually. It's been great people. Fine, I've seen some good Romans, some Silverhammer, but it's just a good laugh, isn't it?
It's been great. And I was talking to Dilek about Andy Savage's finds earlier. He found the two Romans and then come back, carried on playing in the showground and found another Roman.
Yeah, literally underneath the Nocta Macro stand, nice little Roman. Who would have thought?
Fantastic. That means people are going to be all over the showground now.
Yeah. Well, I'm staying tonight, so I'm going to give it a go. See what else is there.
So, how's the weekend been for leisure promotions on a whole?
Yeah, really good. It's been productive, catching up with people that we don't see very often. We've sold a few bits, but all right, we're a dealer and we like to sell things, of course, but that's not why we come. We come to catch up with people. We come for the social. That's why we've got the seats out and having a good laugh. I just need some sleep.
I'm going to have to ask you, what time did you get to bed last night, Pete?
Oh, last night I was a lightweight, 2:30.
I was an even more lightweight, 9:30.
See, you're the sensible one.
No, we were sat in the Mind Lab tent, with our free beer and what have you. And after 2 pints, I said to Luke, we're going back to the car. I really can't be bothered, mate. I need to go to sleep. Yesterday was a killer at 2 Brewler. So he said, yeah, I'm coming. I'll finish my drink and I'll meet you there. What time did Luke get in this morning?
Same as Pete, actually, just after 3:30, about 2:45.
So, yeah. As a festival goes, it is festival quality when it comes to the party time.
Yeah, well, I'm going to point out that me and Luke are a little bit younger, are a little bit cooler. We're obviously the cool kids, staying out late.
Well,
tucked up at 9:30.
Can I just point out, cool people have purple beards. You've just got this fuzz on your face, and well, he's obviously.
I don't know if Luke can grow one.
Luke's only about 12.
Thank you, gents.
I'm leaning on
live as well. That's brilliant.
I'm leaning on one of the stands here because I'm so tired and I'm pushing him away.
My legs are just done in. I've got bags under my eyes.
Suitcases.
This is a podcast. We'll forget that bit. This is a podcast. Bags. My legs are like jelly. But it's the same every year. We're getting used to it. Worn out.
Well, one thing myself and Luke would like to say to you, Pete, personally, is thank you. You've supported us so much with both the magazines, with the podcasts, even behind the scenes when I've asked you questions and you've pointed me in the right direction. Give us hints about what we could offer differently in the podcast and the magazine. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have your support.
No, it's our pleasure. And I work with the good guys. So if we meet up with someone and we can see that you're doing things the right way and you're nice people, and that's what's key for us. And we love it. It's all good.
This is the professional me now. You know, there is another side.
Yeah, we're waiting until the mics go off for that conversation.
So you've had all the YouTubers here this weekend as well, meeting and greeting folk and chatting.
Yeah, they've been here, but I haven't told them to meet and greet. They've been out detecting, enjoying themselves. I'm sure you'll see their videos from Discriminators, Grim. Who we had it? Yeah, so Stephen Pettican, Grim, South Coast Detecting, UK Dirt Diggers UK. I'm going to miss someone. And I'm going to feel. Yeah, I said Discriminators. Yeah. Oh, there's going to be ones that I've missed, and I apologise.
Well, if you have missed, I'll apologise because I feel exactly the same way. And all our videos will be out and available on YouTube, and we'll be speaking to you in the interim, obviously, on the podcast. I had lots of plans for the interviews this weekend with people as well, but they were right. So it's a bit of a special for that. So day 2 has been very active, lots of finds, etc., and we've not stopped speaking to people. So first up today, the charity that the event is following and helping this year is called Let's Keep Ellis Active. Is that right?
Let's get Ellis active. Yeah.
And we have a friend of the family who just wants to say a few words, and we've also got Ellis here, so he might have a little.
Hello, Ellis.
He's been a little bit shy, but
so I'll pass you over now.
Yeah, Ellis has been a little bit shy, but we just wanted to say thank you for everybody that put all this together. And you guys actually were kind enough to donate some detectors, and we definitely appreciate that because every penny helps. We've been working since February to try and get him walking, and after this event, I think we're going to be about halfway there, which is fantastic. He's been through a couple of surgeries, but he's still one of the happiest boys you'll ever meet, right, Ellis? We just want to say thank you. We really appreciate it.
Keeping him, obviously, been active, been opposite us for the past 2 days, and been keeping an eye on him. And he's going round with his little, trying to get round on his little buggy and having a play with his sisters. What is the actual condition that Ellis has got that's causing him not to be able to walk?
He has something called arthrogryposis, which basically, if you can see his hands are turned in and the legs are the same way. So what ends up happening is without the surgery, everything just basically turns in is a good description of it. So he can't walk. He has difficulty gripping things. So without, surgery, there's just no chance of him walking ever. But of course, the rarity of the disease leads to the fact that there are very few people that actually can operate on him. And so the only person that can actually is from the United States and in Florida, which drives up the cost. So otherwise, he'd probably be walking if it was something a little more simpler or a little more common, but it's not. It's a complicated condition.
So what is the...
I'm Aaron Weedall from South Coast Detecting. Welcome to Detectable 2019.
Oh, we've got lots of crafts going on. There's some people doing textile work down there. We've got an authentic wagon wheel that one of our members built. I'm doing some textile work myself. My husband, who's currently just wanting to get a coffee, he's doing some antler work. We've got some helmets being made over there, and probably some other things that I haven't even seen myself yet.
You got it. Wow.
They're very weak, normal management. And there's one shocking is one that quite often sees raining
Absolutely brilliant.
Graham, how do you feel?
That's about the machine. And the machine's quality, man. I'm just holding it now, and it's a strong machine, like robust. Like I really think like you could get out in the field and give it a good battering, and it just runs. And it's so simple to use. Till it just went through really quick, and I was like, oh
and
yeah, I could go straight on the field now and detect. It really is simple.
Basically, that's why we called it simplex. We say it's simple enough for the beginner, yet impressive enough for the expert.
And this is the one that last year had the competition for the naming.
No.
That's the other one.
That's the next one. Not the one that I'm going to show today. That's for our multi-frequency device, simultaneous frequency device that's going to come out in the future.
I've got you. I'm with you now.
I chose the name for that, but I'm not going to reveal it because everybody might think that it's coming out very soon, which is not. But yeah, that naming competition was for the simultaneous frequency machine.
Marvelous. You got one?
No, not.